You're listening to the Brown Perspective. This is Eduardo, and I'm here with this fool, R.O.
What's up, fool?
What's going on, fool?
Wait, is that how Felipe Esparza says it? What's up, fool? Or is that? See, I don't know if that's just how I grew up saying it, or if that's Felipe Esparza influence there.
I think it might be a Felipe Esparza influence. And now that I have long hair, I hope I don't make it into that not Felipe Esparza videos that he posts from time to time.
Right? Yeah. So I think this show that we're going to talk about today, and I've seen just a few episodes. I know you saw the whole season already. It really does center. It tries to capture a lot of that culture, and for me, watching the show, it felt it felt authentic. Like I could
Hmm.
see that. I could see the family. I could see the relatives. So I could see myself in the story. And so I think they're finally cracking the formula in terms of how to portray other groups more authentically. They even threw in the whole Father Boyle homeboy industries in there with the hugs not thugs. So yeah, I thought that worked for me.
Yeah, so this fool is on Hulu, so you can check it out if you haven't already. And basically, it's a story of two cousins, and one of them goes to jail and bullied the younger cousin. But then years later, when the cousin comes out, so you see the bald one on the left of your screen, you may recognize him from he's a YouTuber. He started with Cholo Fit. He
Hmm.
used to do a bunch of workouts and kind of making fun of the culture, but also highlighting it. Working out as a cholo, all these
Is he
things.
the one that does the yoga?
Yeah, the Cholo Fit.
Oh yeah, okay. So I you know what? I didn't even place him. Yeah. Okay, so I didn't know
This
where. Yeah.
fool.
And then
I'm
the
trying to
yeah
remember his.
his handle
I know he has a
or his
his
YouTube channel,
name too.
and the well aquí dice Frank Quiñones, but
There you go,
uh,
Frank Quiñones.
Chris
Eh,
Estrada, the cousin, the other important piece is that he grows up. You know what? Very similar to my upbringing in a way, like surrounded by the bad influences in the neighborhoods, but always trying to stay at a distance, like trying to avoid it as much as possible. Like inevitably, I had
mhm.
friends and family members that were involved in the gang culture, but I was always like at a distance from that, and so that's how he grew up. And he grew up. I think he referred to himself in one of the scenes as a punk, but he said that punks stay alive. That's the benefit. That's how he
Hmm.
convinced. I think isn't that how he convinced his cousin to go work for him at the bakery?
Yeah, I think part of it is because Hugs, Not Thugs, is basically addressing the reentry population and the need to, once people have paid their debt to society, how do they get a trade and how can they get a job so they don't go back
Yeah, how to
into the
reintegrate.
gang life.
Yeah, how to reintegrate back into society. So
Yeah, some would say that, he's trying to find the right word, but somebody who is a coward, well, to your point, that stays alive, right?
yeah,
That it's that's
it's a punk ass yeah,
yeah.
that's I mean that's how you would refer to them. But so here's the thing, right? So I know we've reviewed shows before. We've reviewed Selena, and then we reviewed the Gordita Chronicles, or we talked about them. Now this show is like I said, I haven't finished watching the entire season, and to be honest, I don't know if I'm going to finish watching it. I mean, if I do, I'm gonna do it just because I want to support the show, because I want to support the cast, because I want to support for uh, make it so that they make more shows like this to give my support. But if I'm going to be like honest with the show, there's just a lot of things that I think are still not there yet. So I think that this it's a good concept. That it's obviously it has good reviews, by the way. So
It's a good
I
first season.
Yeah, so it has good reviews. So this just I might be the minority opinion here, but the thing that I saw right away is that yeah, it feels authentic, but at the same time, it's like they're trying to fit all the stereotypes into a show, and movies and shows do this a lot. Like I don't know if you saw the latest movie with Shia LaBeouf, The Tax Collector, uh, and they do this where with like if there's a movie that likely there's going to be a quinceañera, there's going to be some event to highlight like aspects of the culture. And so in this show they try to fit in a lot of the things that maybe would have been common but within a group of families within a neighborhood. And here it feels to me like they're trying to fit all of them into one family. Like all of those like stereotypes. And so that part for me just it didn't really quite work for me. The other part is the acting, and I think it might be that Frank Quiñones now that I know that he is a YouTube personality, now it makes sense that he may not be trained professionally as an actor. I think he's probably going to get better over time, but he so with the opening scene with Chris Estrada, I think he's good, but like still like he's not like a great actor. Like he's doing a good job. What I was hoping was that when his cousin would introduce the cousin that got out of jail, I thought that he was going to be the one that was going to carry the show, or that they were going to like work off of each other. But then Frankie Quinones, just his character, like it seemed like he was trying too hard. Like, and sometimes it just seemed like he was just reading lines. I want to believe that the character really is like immersed in the role. And there were some times where I kind of felt like, oh, it feels like he's just reading a line, or in this case, it feels like he rushed the line. Like he was too eager to get out that line because he thought it would be funny. So those things for me didn't really quite work. And so when I see a show like that, and I think, yeah, it has a lot of potential, like it's okay, but sometimes I don't keep watching them just because I just don't enjoy them as much.
Interesting. I didn't realize you were such a stickler for a method, for the acting method.
Well, you know what was one of my best scenes? And there's a scene where he's trying to reintroduce his cousin. He's trying to get him to work at the Hugs Not Thugs baking. Is it cupcakes?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
cupcakes.
think they're baking cupcakes. And he's trying to act tough, like, oh, like I'm not gonna do that, like, that's for punks or whatever. And then the black guy comes in, and he's just like, he just shuts everybody up, and he just takes command of the room, and he's like, listen to me, you like, I know you guys don't want to do it, but you guys ain't doing it because you're scared. And I know you're scared because, you're afraid of failure. And he just gave him the whole speech. But when the black guy did that, that was like, oh, man, like that's good acting right there. Like
Yeah,
if
it was
all
funny.
of the actors could have been like that, then it would have been a great show. But that chef, when he came in, I was like, oh, man, if only like all the other guys could be like. And I think, so I don't know if it's a Latino thing. Latinos grow up with a lot of inhibitions. It just seems like Latino actors hold back, like maybe too many inhibitions, too self-conscious sometimes, and they're just afraid to like really let go, to really put themselves out there, to make themselves to be vulnerable, to just be themselves. And the black chef, he was a great example of just like what a great character is, that you immediately believe what they're selling you. And I didn't feel that from the other two. Enough of that, though. Let's talk about the stuff that works, because otherwise, I don't want to be a pessimist here. I know that, obviously, like I said, I'm glad that they are finally cracking the code for how to portray our communities. I'm waiting to see stronger actors, and we are going to get that eventually, because the more chances people are given, the better actors they'll become. So
That's so true. Yeah, and I think for this show, it's also the diversity, the fact that it's telling a story both from the, the Latino, Black perspective. I mean, there's a little bit of the white savior stuff happening with both the founder of the organization as well as some of the donors and the real struggles that come out with running such an organization.
but that's because
And then,
Homeboy Industries is run by Father Doyle, which is it's a white guy. So at least that part,
yeah,
I was okay with that part, because they're just mirroring reality there.
yeah. And then but I think it also kind of gets at some interesting issues between the two cousins, right? So I think the bullying, the sort of the emotional, right? So I think part of it is Julio trying to get over the bullying that Luis did with him, did on him as he was growing up, and the fact that that Luis in some ways was that quirky kid in the neighborhood, right? I think one of the scenes shows them rollerblading, right?
Hmm.
So you can imagine if you ever rollerblade in a barrio, how much fun you're going to be made out of.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's cool because you go to Ciclavia and everybody, some people are rollerblading, they're riding their low rider bikes and other cool bikes. But back in the day, that was a big no-no.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the other piece, getting at some of I guess, men issues, like the emotional issues, like going to therapy, dealing with codependency issues, and other things that kind of come up between both characters and some of the other ones involved in terms of the relationships with the girlfriend, un poco tóxica, the mom, and I think the other piece that was pretty accurate was just kind of like the mom going to Tijuana to go get medications or get the dentist done. That's something that does happen here in
Yeah.
LA because that's what folks are used to.
Yeah, you're gonna have to fill me in on what happens in the second half of the
You
series.
gotta watch it, homie. You gotta support.
Yeah. If I, yeah, I'll try to watch it, but I never finished watching the Selena series and the Gordita Chronicles because I have to be invested in the story too. It has to work for me, and maybe you're right. Maybe I am like a little bit too too harsh here. But see, the thing is, there's so much good television, right? So if I want to watch television, I could choose from like good quality shows. Like, have you seen the show with Steve Carell and the guy that what's his name? He
The
plays. He's a
patient.
where he's a psychologist and he gets kidnapped by
Yeah,
a serial killer. Is that The Patient?
I believe so.
Yeah. So that's a great series because those two actors are just phenomenal, just amazing. Like so, and I don't know if you know, but the guy that plays the serial killer,
Is it Donald
Donald
Gleason?
Gleason. Yeah. So Donald Gleason, he's such a great actor because he transforms no matter what role you give him. So I don't know if you remember him from Ex Machina, but he's the guy that plays the test subject. He comes out in The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio. He comes out in Star Wars. He comes out now in this series with Steve Carell. And in every single role he plays, he just transforms he has such a wide range. And he's every single character that I've seen him so far, he just sells it. He becomes that persona. And so watching that show, it obviously it's a great story too, but just watching two talented actors giving their best, right? So it's hard for me to then go back to something that is not at that level and watch like an entire season of that because I don't get a lot of time to watch television. So if I'm gonna watch something where I can just escape, right? So we watch television to escape. We watch television to be told the story. This is why we go to the movies as kids because we immerse ourselves in the story. And for a time being, for an hour, for 2 hours, we forget about everything else that's going on around us. And I like that feeling. And this is just me from growing up, watching movies growing up where I would just, get lost in the movies and then the lights would turn on in the movie theater and I'd be like, oh, fuck, it's time to go back to reality. But when I'm
All
watching
right, Nicole Kidman.
what's that?
Okay, Nicole Kidman. You haven't. I don't know if you've been to an AMC recently, but that's kind of the preview that she does.
Oh, is
Like,
it?
yeah, and then it's funny because SNL made fun of it
Oh,
in
okay.
terms of how much, the whole feeling about getting lost in the story and
Oh,
stuff like
that's
that.
what
So
she
you,
said. I didn't even know that. No, but that's how I used to feel as a kid, like junior high and high school. I used to just that's why I enjoyed the movie so much. So when I find myself criticizing a series that I'm watching because I'm looking at the acting, I'm looking at things that don't work. I don't enjoy it as much because I'm no longer just enjoying myself watching it. I'm like I've stepped out into the real world and I'm just being this guy that's being critical of a series. So I don't
Hmm.
enjoy series where I end up doing that. I just and so I stop watching them because I don't enjoy them as much. But like I said, I'll watch it just to support it. But see, here's the other thing too. Like we have to be tough on our own series. We can't just support them because they're Latinos, because then the quality's not going to be great. It's like honestly, I was surprised to see it has 4.9 stars. Are people just being too easy on these series because they think like, oh, it's Latinos, whatever they do is like, let's support them because it's a Latino show. It's like, nah, man, just be harsh on it. Just don't like do it in such a way that it doesn't eliminate the opportunities for these actors to then continue acting because they'll become better actors. But it's okay to be harsh. We should expect more from our own shows. And so that's in that regard, I don't feel bad that I'm critical of these shows, because I would be critical of them no matter if it were white actors or black or Latinos. I'm not displaying favoritism here or being biased. But again, I will watch it. There I am being biased. I'll watch it to support it. But you know,
Aren't you though? Don't you have a very specific standard of what good acting is supposed to be like?
well, yeah, I mean, Robin Williams, Oscar Isaac is a great actor in Ex Machina. He does a phenomenal job with Domhnall Gleeson. Well, what are other good actors? Ice Cube is not a good actor. Ice Cube is a very one-dimensional actor.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
Vin
But
Diesel's not a great actor. He's one-dimensional. I enjoy him in certain roles. I can't watch him in other roles because they just
you like
can't.
you like The Rock or no?
He's good for a specific role. He could do comedy really well. He can do like the type of hero, but beyond that, he doesn't have much range. I find that usually the comedians are the ones with the most range, like Steve Carell, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams. They can do Jamie Foxx. They can go from
Kevin Hart.
comedy being funny to really serious roles, even dark roles, dark like killer type of roles.
But so many things to break down because for me it's interesting because I thought that since it was a story relatively close to your experience here in LA, I thought that you were gonna kind of appreciate it and relate to it. And maybe you do, but to your point, you're really focused on the acting, which is a good point to make. But I think also the fact that unfortunately a lot of the schools, the urban schools, um, have not kind of the type of funding for the
Hmm.
arts. And I know
Yeah.
actually this election season here in California, there's a proposition proposition on the ballot that is supposed to increase and provide additional funding for arts in schools. So that way, hopefully, there's more students of color who can go through the theater, who can practice in theater and do other arts, of course. But
Yeah.
then I think from the theater, going to college and other places where they can learn how to act and also the skill of story making and
But
storytelling.
I think so that would certainly help. I do think it may be part of the culture where Latino kids grow up being so self conscious that it kind of inhibits them a little bit from just letting go when they're acting, because they're probably being really self conscious about their acting. But there is another pipeline now that exists, and which this is good. So there's the going to theater class in high school, and then doing drama. But now with YouTube and video streaming, it's like just everyone these days becomes YouTube tries to become a YouTube personality, right? Like even us, like we're doing a podcast. We're not obviously we're not broadcasting ourselves, but there's like hundreds or even thousands of people doing that. And from there, I think we're also going to start seeing more actors like Frankie Quinones. We're gonna start seeing more like them. So I think eventually we will start getting better actors. And going back to your point about that you thought I would enjoy it because it's telling like a story that's so close to home for me. So that's one way of looking at it. But from my point of view, the way that I see it is it's such a missed opportunity, because here we are finally telling a story that's so close to my home, but we don't have strong acting. So I just think to myself like, fuck, I wish we could have told my story, the story close to home, with really good, amazing acting. So that
Hmm.
that's the part that bothers me. So it's like bittersweet. Like I'm glad to see it, but I would have preferred to have seen it with like really good actors. That's why I was really hoping that his cousin, that the cousin that came out of jail, that he carried the show. Maybe I'm just asking for too much.
No, I think you make some good points, and hopefully, just it's just a matter of time and practice, and hopefully this season gets or this series gets additional seasons, in which these actors can continue to develop, the story can continue to develop, the people behind the scenes, the writers, etc., that storytelling and the people who make such a story better can continue to strive to tell better, more impactful stories, more authentic stories about these types of experiences and realities.
Yeah, yeah, and I think at some point I would like to get away from these stories that feature cholos también, because that was only, yeah, there were a lot of cholos growing up in
There
El
were.
in a
They're still around, homie.
well, yeah, but they've gone underground a bit. The culture's not as mainstream as it used to before, and I think the culture has shifted. But even back then, you had, like my brother. My brother was like lost in comic books growing up, like video games. We used to go to the mall, and obviously he'd buy a magazine here and there, but not all the time because we didn't have money. But we'd spend like 2 or 3 hours just reading video game magazines. That's what we would do, and mainly him because like he got me into it. But I used to play video games with them all the time. We used to play video games all. I mean, video games were like my escape, right? It was like my safe space growing up, school and video games. And that was it. I was hooked on video games. And in a way, it's probably video games is probably what kept us out of getting in trouble, joining like gangs or just getting out, being out there and being in trouble. But there were so many like us that we just had. We grew up on anime. I grew up watching Dragon Ball. I grew up watching like Akira and other movies that sometimes that we got the VHS. We got it like directly from Japan. It wasn't even dubbed, not even subtitles in English. So we were just watching anime in the Japanese language. And so, but that's just one dimension, right, of Latinos. There were so many. There were like guys that were skaters. There were guys that were into music. There were the paisas. They were like, and right. So it's very stereotypical to focus on the cholos because they suck up all of the attention sometimes. But there was so much else going on. Like the Latino culture in LA, it's so rich and diverse. And I do hope that eventually we start getting away from that and telling like other stories and even maybe telling a lot of the stories about Latinos growing up with black people and the unique blend, the new culture that's being created there with these two groups living with each other.
Yeah, which
We'll
is a
get there.
good point, like given the conversation that we had recently about what happened in the LA City Council. But I think the reality that there are parts of LA where Black and Latinos are living together, commingling, co-marrying, and there's a fusion of cultures. The fact that Snoop Dogg loves Mexican music, Chalino
Hmm.
Sanchez, and all these types of things has done banda. All these groups were sometimes a mix of Latino and Black, Mexican American Black, Chicano
Hmm.
and Black. So I think that it gives me hope that race relations in LA and other parts of the country will continue to get better.
Yeah, the oldies were from the 60s and the 70s. I don't think
Oh, my
50s.
bad.
50s todavía era just the birth of rock and roll. But yeah, I think that the most of the good oldies are maybe late 60s, 70s, early 70s, mid 70s. But yeah, well, like I said, happy to do a show on growing up with the oldies in junior high, dedicating songs to girls.
Cool. Maybe that's on the list for the next show.
Yeah, but again, the positive thing is that regardless of how I feel about the show, it has a 4.9, so that's great because that means that they'll probably do another season, and then these actors will get more opportunities. So and the writers too. So glad to see that another step in the right direction. So
So if you
any
guys if you guys watch it, let us know.
yeah,
Let
that's
us
right.
know what you think.
Let us know what you think in the comments. If you agree, disagree with me. If you disagree, then that's fine. I'll try to make my case. I'll reply and try to make my case for why I think I have a valid point. So I think we'll wrap it up there. If you all out there enjoy our content, make sure to check us out. We are Brown Perspective. Nos vemos.
Ciao.